The 90-90 spiraling twist is one of the FAMO Fascia Movement exercises which we are really enthusiastic about. So Kathryn and I want to introduce you to some of its finesses relating to anatomy, function and feeling, or more specifically to the anatomy of some of the anatomy trains lines, fascial movement qualities and interoceptive feeling qualities. To understand all of them and also experience them, of course, you need to know the proprioceptive setup and the essentials, and that is what we will be demonstrating in the next video. Join us in a moment. Let's do the setup and essentials for 90-90 spiraling twist together. You are in a 90-90 kneeling position where you have a 90-degree angle in the front knee and the back knee. The front foot is grounded because you will need that stability later on, and the pelvis is as centered as possible. So what I mean, in the sagittal plane, you are centered, because you see this very nicely in Kathryn. So neither tilting the pelvis forward nor tilting it back. Your muscular activity is minimal, enough to dynamically stabilize the pelvis and the lumbar spine, but as little as possible. In the frontal plane, that's what I meant, you might have a little bit of a tilt, depending on the length of your tibia, your shin bone, and the femur, your thigh bone. So we are not manipulating this into a forced alignment. The spine is actively elongated, the shoulders are broad, the head is balanced on top of the spine. In preparation, you can raise your arms overhead and spiral towards the leg that is forward. Place the opposite hand against the outside of the knee, palm facing the body, the head of the humerus centered. And we will speak about the why and intricacy, so functional purposes, of this a little bit later on. Now, the gesture arm is extended out to the side at shoulder height, and the reaching out goes all the way to the fingertips. You press your contralateral hand against the leg and then release the pressure, synchronizing it with the breath. Inhalation, press. Exhalation, release. And you can see in Kathryn, and hopefully experience in your own body, that the spine is spiraled and despiraled without you actively doing it with your oblique abdominals or your spine rotators. Instead, you use what we call the bow and arrow principle. Your hand is pulling the bowstrings of the fascia of the abdomen and the lower back, spiraling the spine around, and then it is despiraling on its own accord when you release the pressure of the hand. Now, this is the setup, more to come. There's a really smart question Kathryn and I regularly get, and it is, what makes an exercise more muscle-focused and what makes it more fascia-focused? And the 90-90 spiraling twist, which we set up for you in the previous video, is an excellent example, because we could do a more muscle-focused twist. So Kathryn, if you want to go into a muscle-focused twist, which some of you might recognize from your own movement modality, this is a wonderful exercise, very, very beneficial in many ways. However, it's good to know that this is muscle-focused. You are engaging your external oblique muscle and the internal oblique muscle on the contralateral side, and hopefully your spine rotators to actively rotate and derotate the spine. Now, in contrast to this, Kathryn, if you're going into the 90-90 spiraling twist, is our fascia-focused spiraling twist, where we use the hand to pull the fascial bowstring, metaphorically speaking, of the oblique abdominals contralateral to the muscle-focused version. And we're also pulling the fascial bowstring of the thoracolumbar fascia to elastically lengthen and then allow to recoil. And I'm already giving you a little preview of what we're going to do in the next video. We will speak about fascial elasticity, which is a distinct fascial quality, distinctly different to muscular contraction. 3 videos ago, Kathryn and I started to introduce you to the intricacies of the 90-90 spiraling twist. In this 4th video, we want to talk about the myofascial meridians in focus. Which one is immediately apparent to you if you know the Anatomy Trains system? Yes, the spiral line, very clearly in action. The portion we are going to focus on is the abdominal fascia, oblique abdominal fascia, and the thoracolumbar fascia. What other meridian can you see being moved, being involved? Lateral line, because the rib cage is also spiraling around, and I've already given you a clue where we will be focusing on the intercostal fascia. And then we are going also into the front functional line, exactly right. And we could here consider all of the front functional line, but predominantly really the trunk portion. Now, Kathryn does it beautifully. We are also going to focus on the front arm lines, especially the superficial front arm line, from fingertips to chest to lower back. We are also going to focus on the back arm lines, especially the shoulder fascia, deep with the rotator cuff fascia, and also the deltoid fascia into the trapezius. Now, as we focus on these myofascial meridians, it's really worthwhile mentioning that all of them, as well as all of the other myofascial meridians, it's 12 of them, either fascially or functionally connect to the thoracolumbar fascia. In the Anatomy Trains concept, this is called a roundhouse. If you have ever been in Paris and stuck in a very, very large roundabout on the Place Charles de Gaulle, it has 12 lines, then you were in a city roundhouse. This is the body's roundhouse where 12 myofascial meridians connect. So whatever we do with the arm has an effect on the lower back. Whatever happens in the lower back has an effect on our shoulders. We could also take that down the legs, but we will not in this exercise series that is coming later. I've got a fascia-related question for you. What fascial movement quality is Kathryn engaging? Is it A, elasticity, or is it B, plasticity, which you can also translate into stretchability? If you just answered A, well done. That's exactly what Kathryn was engaging. Now let's see how. So the initial movement to get into the 90-90 spiraling twist is muscle-focused, contralateral obliques. And then we switch focus to fascia. And you already see it very nicely in Kathryn's top, but I'm going to emphasize the oblique fascia here. Internal oblique, from your point of view on the left to the external oblique fascia, called the abdominal aponeurosis. So external oblique right. From your point of view, of course, the reverse for Kathryn. Then when we use the hand, engaging the bowstring principle, a technique, the fascia is tensioned, and then when Kathryn releases the pressure, it detensions. So tension, detension. In tension, elastic lengthening of the oblique fascia followed by a recoil. And we could do exactly the same for the thoracolumbar fascia. So elasticity enhancing exercise par excellence. What can plastic wrap and the thoracolumbar fascia have in common? It's one thing you want and one thing you really don't. So if you said it is strong, then you got the thing you really want. So the thoracolumbar fascia proper should be strong and supportive from within. And then what you really don't want is the layers stuck together. Motion is lotion, and the fascial lotion is called ground substance, if you like to use the technical terms. And then the question is, how can we facilitate fluidity, so a gel-like state in the fascial ground substance, to give us the inner smoothness into our fascial system and the thoracolumbar fascia. One of the really fabulous exercises, yes, you guessed it, if you have been with Kathryn and me for the series, is 90-90 spiraling twists. Twist. We have done a series of videos already. Make sure you get the information from these. Now, Kathryn is going into the exercise now using your hand, as you have learned before, to induce a spiraling movement in her spine. Now, what happens is that the thoracolumbar fascia tensions and detensions, it's a multi-layered fascia. We distinguish 3 layers, and because they're at separate levels, at different levels, and also have different densities and collagen orientation, they tension at different speeds, meaning there is glide between the layers when we go into an exercise like this. So we are creating that inner ease and fascial glide, which this talk is all about, along with tensile strength in the thoracolumbar fascia, equals to inner support and inner ease, as you, I'm sure, Kathryn is experiencing right now. In a series of videos, we have been speaking about fascial elasticity and glide, and as a feature exercise, we used 90-90 spiraling twist. The focus was on the oblique abdominal fascia and the thoracolumbar fascia. Now, where else can you see is elasticity and glide being trained in this exercise? If you just said, of course, the rib cage, then yes, you got that exactly right. That's another intention of ours. And you can envision the internal and external intercostal muscles on diagonal angles like your internal and external obliques. And as we described previously, we are aiming to elasticize the obliques. You're also elasticizing your intercostal fascia, and for these fascial layers to, have their full potential in elasticity, they need to glide against each other, and that's another quality we are training. Now, you might be wondering, where in the world do I need elastic intercostal fascia? In every step you take. And so this is an excellent exercise to improve overall functionality in everyday life. Have you noticed the position of the hand and the shoulder in the previous videos where we dissected and integrated the 90-90 spiraling twist? Of course you did, because you're a very observant viewer and mover. And so we want to talk about this specifically because it is very deliberate. The palm of the hand is facing the body, and the shoulder is medially rotated. And at the same time, the head of the humerus is centered, or as centered as possible, in the joint capsule. The magic, however, happens when we get moving. Because when Kathryn is spiraling into the exercise, not only the thoracic spine is spiraling, she is taking the rib cage along, and the shoulder blade is dynamically stabilized against the rib cage. Therefore, our intention is to create relative movement between the head of the humerus and the joint capsule, creating a slight shift where the head of the humerus, the upper arm bone, moves slightly back in the joint capsule, which for most of us creates a more centered alignment in this medial rotation. But it's dynamic, it's not static, and that's part of the magic. So there's this very small gliding movement, but instead of moving the arm through the capsule, the joint capsule is moving past the head of the humerus. Now, when do we need a centered medial rotation? Every single time we take something to our mouth, for example. Now, just consider how many times a day we do this, and the relevance becomes immediately clear. Does the arm position of the gesture arm matter in the 1990 spiraling twist? If you just answered yes, you get half a point, because if you have been following our series, you know the kind of questions I'm asking. So I'm asking you a more advanced question. Does it matter in terms of myofascial anatomy and or function? If you said it's not an or but an and, you get a full point. Now, how does it matter? We have been speaking about elasticity in the oblique abdominal fascia and the thoracolumbar fascia. Now, when we trace the fascia of the oblique abdominals, for example, it is continuous with the pectoral fascia. So as we take the arm higher and higher up, and then also externally rotate the shoulder, we are increasing tension in the pectoral fascia. And as you know, whatever is continuous has an effect. So we are changing the tension, in this case here, increasing the tension in the oblique abdominal fascia, and at the back also in the thoracolumbar fascia. When we are aiming to enhance tensile strength or dynamic inner stability, taking the arm up is a really clever way of performing the exercise. When we aim to decrease tension and possibly increase range of motion or thoracic mobility, taking the arm down, palm facing down, might be very, very clever for that respective purpose. So the arm position really matters both anatomically and functionally. In the previous video, I was asking you about the function of the arm movement of the gesture arm. Now I have an advanced question for you, and it relates to the anatomy trains myofascial meridians. Does taking the arm up change the myofascial meridian in focus compared to arm at shoulder level or either arm down? I'll let you think about this for a moment as I'm walking back. So if your answer to the question was yes, well done. Again, it's half a point. The other half of the point you get when you tell us, Kathryn and me, what myofascial meridian is in focus when we are doing, let's stay here for a moment, when we do the spiraling twist per se. Spiral line, absolutely right. Other myofascial meridians too, but the spiral line is a primary focus. Now, when we take the arm overhead, externally rotating the shoulder, the focus switches to which line? Front function line. Very, very good. And why does this matter? Because it matters because of function. The spiral line focused version, where the arm can be really at any height, is beneficial for all of us. If your favorite sport has something to do with throwing, with a racket, deliberately including the front function line, taking the arm overhead, is an excellent idea. Monica was just behind the camera like, stand up, like Kathryn does. So excellent. So here it is. The spiral line is always in action. When we take the arm overhead, we are making a switch into the front function line. Why is Kathryn squeezing and releasing a slings massage ball? For good reasons. 1, grip strength. So squeeze, grip, release. Second good reason, we increase tension, tensile strength in the fascia from the hand across the arm, the front of the shoulder, into the chest, the abdominals, straight down, but also across to the opposite side. Tensile strength. Third good reason, proprioception. Coordinate, contract, finger flexion, and release. And then if you want to be really clever about it, with which fingers do you squeeze, and can you play with that? Fourth good reason, interoception. How does it feel to squeeze and release? And which one do you favor, holding on or letting go? When you think of or engage in body-mind exercise, do you have play in mind? If you do, that is excellent, because play is an integral part of our holistic vitality. And sometimes when we get into body-minded movement, we become a little bit too serious, too stern, even perfectionistic about everything we do, and that is inhibiting the free flow of our vitalizing energies. So stay in play. We will round off this educational video series with a FAMO Fascia Movement practice. High kneeling, raise your arms overhead, arm arc, sit back, arm circle, and then curl up. Now, I will be using a language that matches you as a professional. It is the language Kathryn and I would be using in an education course. Kathryn with a Canadian accent, me with a Swiss accent. Open your arms. Later, we will also do an embodiment practice. Turn your left foot out, lift it up, and then into dynamic shift. And this is our transition into the 90-90 kneeling position, which is the starting position for the feature exercise, 90-90 spiraling twist. Raise your arms overhead, muscle-focused preparatory twist into the spiraling twist position. Then you're setting your left shoulder, medial rotation, as centered as possible, palm of the hand facing the leg. Inhalation, press the hand against the leg. Exhalation, release. And you are successfully spiraling and de-spiraling your spine with what we call a bow and arrow technique. Integrating the left arm, the gesture arm, start to lift the arm up, externally rotate the shoulder. Now, as you know, this is a spiral line focused exercise. At the moment, we are making a switch here into the front function line and then lower the arm. And we are also benefiting the lateral line with the ribcage spiraling, lowering the arm again. Now, the arm movement has several purposes, one of which, lifting the arm back up, is to change tension, fascial tension in the front arm lines and then into the front functional line and also spiral line and lateral line. Keep your arm reaching up and then swing it forward, both arms overhead. Active forward fold, pick up the ball with your right hand, lift, open spiraling twist, squeeze the ball, release, swing the arm forward. Swing back, squeeze, release, arm swings forward. So we want proprioceptive movement orchestration, the ability to squeeze and immediately release the ball, at the same time swing the arm in a coherent rhythm. We do this one more time. Both arms are flying overhead. You hold onto the ball with your left hand. Spiraling twist, squeeze, release, press and squeeze, release. And then again, you're gradually taking the arm up. So we have double coordination here. The two hands are doing something different. That's proprioceptive finesse. You keep your arm overhead. Both arms swing overhead centered, alternating. And swing, change, and up. So we have a proprioceptive finesse manifold here. Either you're focusing on passing on the ball without the delay, or you incorporate squeeze and release. You're not getting around passing on the ball, I'm sorry. And then one more time. And you pause with both arms overhead. Active forward fold, place the ball onto the floor, lift back up, open your arms, ready to transition via the dynamic shift into dynamic hip release. If you have a situation like us going on, it's double the fun. Collective proprioception here. And then we turn the leg in, foot back, high kneeling position, balancing on the go. Sit back and curl up. One more time. An exercise part not to be skipped. It's really valuable between the two sides. Changing side. Right foot out, right knee up. Ready, transition from the dynamic hip release into 90-90 kneeling. Beautiful. Setting up a centered position again, arms overhead. Bring your spiral line into muscle-focused action. Place the hand against the leg. Remember, palm facing the leg. Widen the shoulder. You are medially rotated and as centered as possible. Gesture arm reaching out. Left hand. Press with your inhalation and release. We go a few more times. Now, in terms of fascial movement qualities, elasticizing the abdominal fascia and thoracolumbar fascia is one of the aims. Start to reach the arm up and externally rotating, so you also reach out. Now, the elasticizing is one thing. The other thing, lower the arm, is facilitating glide. In the thoracolumbar fascia, the intercostal fascia, which we also elasticize, lower your arm all the way down, and also the abdominal fascia. However, in the abdominal fascia, really, elasticity is a primary focus, and then arm up. In the lower back, equal measure elasticity and glide. The same goes for the intercostal fascia. Reach, pause, both arms overhead, active forward fold, pick up the ball, lift back up, take it into your left hand, open spiraling twist, squeeze the ball, release and swing. Arm pendulum, including squeeze and release. Now, besides proprioceptive finesse here, there is an interoceptive key, and it's how does it make you feel? And do you have a preference between holding on and letting go? Last one. Both arms overhead. Open spiraling twist. Squeeze, release. Press at the same time. Same thing. How does it feel to really squeeze, completely release? What's your spectrum? Can you apply maximum squeeze and almost full release? You're still holding onto the ball, or are you somewhere in between? We go one more time, then you release. Swing the arm overhead, center, alternating. Squeeze, release, pass on. And here, we can be really a bit sporty, like a little bit ambitious. What about play? Can you pass on the ball without a delay? Can you still squeeze and release? Can Kathryn and I find a really synergized rhythm between the two of us? So this is also about fun and play. Last one. And then both arms go overhead, active forward fold. The ball goes onto the floor. You're lifting up. Open your arms into dynamic shift. By the way, this one too, it's a great adaptability exercise, but it's also play because the angles will never be the same. And we're making the body more adaptable and hopefully lifting the spirit along the way. We are back in 90-90 gate pose, turning the leg in, bringing it back, arms besides the body, arm arc. Active forward fold, integration, curl up, a balancing right, left, balancing. Last one, arch, lift from the sternum, open through the front of the body, and then sit back. Here is an embodiment version of a FAMO Fascia Movement practice that we focused on previously from a educational perspective. We are starting in high kneeling, pelvis centered, spine elongated, arms alongside of the body. Arm arc, reaching up, active forward fold, arm circle back, exhale, curl up fluently. Inhalation, sit back. Exhalation, curl up. One more time, preparing the body for the spiraling sequence to come. Lower your arms all the way down. Take your left foot out. Lift the left knee up. You are in a 90-90 gate pose with your upper body dynamically stabilized. Controlled fall to the side and then start to walk forwards, maneuvering around your friend until you are in a dynamic shift, which brings you into a 90-90 kneeling position where you have minimal activity in your center, as much as necessary, as little as possible. Spine still elongated, arm arc, a twist. Place your right hand against the outside of the left knee. Broaden the shoulders. Reach out from your collarbones. Left arm reaching out. Gaze of your eyes towards your left arm. Inhalation, press your right hand against the leg. Exhalation, release. Inhalation, press, spiraling around. Release. Allow the spine to despiral. Keep going a few more times. As you do so, you start to lift your left arm up, turning the shoulder out, palm facing forward. Incorporate your hand, reach out, and then there is a softening through the hand. You are elasticizing very successfully the fascia in your abdomen and around the spine. Lower the arm. You're also, how do I put it? You strengthen your shoulder, but in a fascia-focused manner, which is very, very beneficial because it takes a lot of tension out of your shoulders or tightness out of your neck. Start to raise your arm again and keep spiraling your spine. Now you're not only increasing elasticity, so inner spring, around your spine, but also ease, true fascial glide. Keep reaching up and now swing both arms forward and overhead. Active forward fold. Pick up the ball with your right hand. Lift all the way up. Open spiraling twist. Left hand to the inside of the left knee and the right arm reaches out. Squeeze the ball. Release and swing the arm forward. Let it swing back, squeeze. Let it swing forward. So you have a squeeze at the end point of your arm pendulum back. You immediately release, and the arm on its own accord is flying forward. One more time. Next time both arms fly overhead, you center the spine into a twist. Again, you set up with your right hand against the leg, and now squeeze the ball with your left hand. Squeeze, release. Press the hand against the leg at the same time. Squeeze and release. And you can start to raise your left arm already. So you have lots of coordination going on in the body, which is great for the body, and it's excellent for your brain. With the squeeze and release, you also create connectedness from your hand all the way to the spine. One more time. Now, both arms overhead forward. We go into an alternating movement. Swing to the right and spiral to the left, passing on the ball overhead without a delay. So be sporty about it. Have a little friendly, fun competition with yourself. Can you pass on the ball without a delay and still have the lower body dynamically stabilized and the spine spiraling with ease? If you squeeze at the end of the swing or not, it's really up to you, or you change it based on your daily feel. Last one. Both arms stay overhead. Active forward fold. Ball goes onto the floor. Reach back up. Open your arms. Ready to transition. Dynamic shift. Gradually walking out. So it's a controlled fall. We trust the body. We enhance our adaptability. And we are in 1990 gate pose again. Point and turn in, take the leg back, high kneeling, arm arc, sit back, fluently curl up, inhalation, sit back, balancing on the go. Last one, stay lifted, lower your arms. Let's do the other side, lift the knee, into dynamic hip release, walking out. Here too, by the way, this has serious benefits in terms of elasticity and adaptability, but it also has a fun element to it, which is really good for our overall vitality. And and then we're in 1990 kneeling again. Good catch. Take your arms overhead into a spiraling twist starting position. Again, feel the broadness in your shoulders, especially your left shoulder, which feels from the collarbone out really wide. Inhalation, press. Exhalation, release, allowing your spine to be spiraled around. It doesn't spiral by its own accord, it spirals because you use your hand, elasticizing the fascia around the spine, promoting glide. Integrate your right arm. Reach up, reach out. Maybe you feel a change. Do you feel a change? Are you spiraling as much? Is it even spiraling more, or is it more dynamic? Lower the arm. Sometimes we spiral a little less, but the movement feels more dynamic. Start to lower the arm. You're making an internal tensional change, which can create a different inner spring. And then start to raise your arm up again. Where is this inner spring coming into action in your everyday life? When you walk. When you run, for example, in everyday activities. Now we do this 2 more times. You're also vitalizing your inner organs, by the way. And then swing your arms overhead, active forward fold, pick up the ball, take your arms overhead, pass it on to the left hand, open spiraling twist, squeeze the ball, release and swing. Squeeze and release. And again, you have this wonderful exercise where we can practice grip strength, where we can improve our coordination and also our felt sense of the body, not just this movement. Last one. Both arms go overhead, you pass on the ball, spiraling twist and squeeze. Release. press and squeeze, release both hands, and then start to gradually lift your arm. You're also making a tensional change in your body by squeezing the ball. Why does it matter? Because it can increase your inner dynamic stabilization. We go 2 more times. And if you're a little bit too flexible for your own good, excellent version here with squeezing and releasing the ball to create inner balance. Both arms overhead center, alternating spiraling twist to the left, to the right. And again, you find your inner child that has really a lot of fun playing with this exercise. So the adult is making sure that you stay within your well-being zone. So we don't want you to hurt yourself, but you want a feeling of playfulness in this exercise. So do a little competition with you as you repeat that sequence with coordinating, passing on the ball, and then also with squeeze and release. Last one, arms overhead. Active forward fold. Ball goes onto the floor, lift back up, open your arms, and then into dynamic shift. And maybe you did what I just did, and you just placed neatly an obstacle in your own life, I wanted to say. It's not that tragic, it's just an exercise, but maybe maybe you, as I do, recognize a little pattern here from the mat into everyday life, neatly resolved right now. Then you can turn the leg back in, bring it back, high kneeling, lower your arms, arm arc, sit back, and curl up smoothly. One more time, sit back, one more curl up into an arch. Lift from the pubic bone, lift from the sternum. Open through the chest, sit back, relax. I hope you feel absolutely fantastic. Can you hold on? Can you let go? Can you hold on and let go? Or can you do either? Now, that would be a little bit of an issue, for which we have a solution. Jokes aside, it's an excellent exercise for all of us, regardless of what our preferences are. It's a version of 1990 spiraling twist, which we have done a whole educational video series about it. And so far, we have spoken about functional anatomy and proprioception, a very pragmatic sense. Now we are going into the felt sense, which is interoception. So interoception tells us how we feel in our body, and what is the emotional coloring of the feeling. When we do the version where we squeeze the ball, release, we have a holding on, letting go situation. And then you can tune into your interoceptive sense and experience. What's your preference? Is it a squeeze and holding on? Does that feel really satisfying? Or is it like, thank God I can let go? Or do you derive equal satisfaction, pleasure, and fun from both? That would be awesome. Or you can cultivate the complementary part. And I'm finding it really fun here to kind of, it's like a game where I'm maneuvering around Kathryn. So happy practice with your felt sense.